Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? It's Edgar Rivera here, comedian Edgar Rivera, and I would like to welcome you all to another episode of Brothers in Arms. Yes, Brothers in Arms, a new show created by men for men, where we like to bring awareness to men and let them know that it's okay to talk. I feel like men don't talk that much. I feel like men don't connect with their emotions. They don't know how to face their fears. I mean, we do talk, but we don't talk what's inside, and that's what counts the most to me. So in this podcast, we hope to talk some more, let you know how good it feels, and basically it's gonna be the new way of men talking, yo. And I couldn't do this by myself, man. When I came up with this idea, I was like, man, I need some brothers on board with me, and I got my brothers on here, and I would like to introduce them now. First off, man, my comedy comrade, man. This brother has traveled the world with me doing comedy. He's one of my best friends. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers, put your hands together wherever you at for my brother, Eric Nieves.
Yes, thank you. And we're going to break the world record for the use of the word brother in a podcast.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Love you. Good
That's
to be
the
here.
purpose. That's the purpose. And next to Eric, man, when I came up with this podcast, I told Eric about it, and Eric said, man, we're gonna have to get a professional. We're just two comedians, you know? And we got a professional, man. We got the doctor with the most, man. Dr. Dan Ratner in the house. What's up, Doc? AKA Dr. Dan. Should we call you Dr. Dan?
Hey,
Or
listen,
Dr. D?
we're gonna see. We're gonna see how this goes. Men, the talking evolves. Okay, so you're gonna start calling me Dr. Dan, and we'll see.
There you go. There you go, Dr.
Just
Dan.
let's not have anybody on this show suddenly say, "All right, we're done," because that's what men always do.
That's it. That's it.
We're talking too much. We're talking too much. I've said too much.
I don't know if you want us to call you Dr. Dan or just want us to call you Dan, or you want us to call you brother, because apparently I'm using brother a lot, according to Eric.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did you say brother?
Yeah.
You can call me Brother Dan.
Brother Dan.
Listen, it's your show. It's your show, Edgar. You get to decide.
Nah, man, I like to call you Dr. Dan because I want people to know that like I said, it's not just two comedians here. We have a professional that at the end of the day, when we do talk and when we do, vent out, we could laugh, we could joke, and at the same time, we could get an opinion from you.
I think we should go with Dr. Dan because Dr. Phil, everyone listens to him, and that's just a doctor with a first name. I mean, and he's Dr. McGraw, but for show purposes, he's Dr. Phil, and he's our version. He's our Dr. Dan.
And nobody calls him Phil, so that doesn't work.
There you go. But you see how this just came out in the beginning. You can call me whatever you want, and now he's like, nobody calls him Phil. Nobody calls him Phil. It's true, right? I'm pretty sure nobody calls him.
I'm sure his wife at some point.
When she,
Hopefully, imagine if his wife calls him Dr. Phil.
That'd be pretty creepy.
Dr.
Come
Phil,
here,
can you
Dr.
pass
Phil.
me can you pass me the toothbrush? Thank you.
That's hilarious. I'm gonna call you Dr. Dan for everything, man. But thank you guys. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for being a part of this journey, man. I hope that I know we have something good here. I know that this needs to come out now more than ever, especially with everything happening in the world. I feel like I said, man, we don't express what's inside. We talk about everything. We talk about sports. You guys know everything about sports. You know everything that's happening. But what we fail to talk about, it's what's bothering us inside. So for me, the reason for me doing this podcast was I had a good friend commit suicide last year, and it messed me up. It messed me up because the day he did it, we were chatting on a group chat. We were all laughing, joking about, like never would I thought that this is gonna happen that night. And I got that call that night, and it scared me. It scared me to the point because I was one of those people. I was one of those men that my problems were my problems and not yours. Sometimes we're afraid to ask for help. Sometimes we're afraid to bother somebody with our problems, and it should never feel that way. You know what I'm saying? And I never talked. And recently, I've been opening up more where I have a circle. So when my friend Tariq took his life, I was like, it scared me. It scared me so much because I was like, man, we need to talk. I need to talk it out. I don't know what was going on in his head before he did that. And if he would have told any of us, we would have all walked him off that bridge, but he didn't. And it was crazy. And the idea for the podcast came out there. I was like, you know what? We need to bring awareness to that, especially being an entertainer. And in Hollywood and entertainers, a lot of us suffer from this because we want so much attention. We want to be accepted by everyone. I feel like entertainers, sports, players and everybody else. So that was my reason for doing this. I got Eric, obviously, because I feel like Eric has some secrets that we all should know. you know. And that is the reason I got Eric, because I figured me and Eric have a good chemistry together. And when I told him, he was onto it real quick. He was like, man, it's a great idea.
Oh, well, I love the idea. Well, first of all, I've never wanted to do a podcast before. I'm very anti-technology. Like my knowledge of technology goes as far as the fixed Amazon Fire Stick. Like that's my idea of technology. But when Edgar told me about it, because there are a lot of podcasts that are funny, and I love humor, and we're going to bring humor to this podcast. But we also want to bring, we wanted to bring something else, and he wanted to bring something that could maybe use humor to open up the lines of communication, maybe not make it so hard to talk about these things, and for people to feel less embarrassed, because we can laugh about it. And the first step to any healing is talking. So I love the thought of the show, and I really like that we're bringing someone that is a professional in the field, because not only to offer his insight, but to make sure that we're not talking out of turn. We're two comedians, so we have opinions, but we want to make sure that we're giving people good stuff out there to really make an impact. So I'm glad that we have Dr. Dan, and plus if we need a colonoscopy, he's very handy to have a doctor that you're close with.
If you want to get a really bad colonoscopy, hire a therapist. A psychologist gives a really bad colonoscopy.
I like how he went like that with the finger. You saw it the whole time. He was just pointing his finger.
Well, he just wanted to reiterate of what he was using. He wanted to make sure he was clear.
I just needed to. Yeah, I mean, I could get it wrong. But actually, let me say something about this, because you guys are more qualified than you think. Because I mean, I'm certainly glad to be here, and I can lend a kind of a role that comes from having studied these things, understanding these things at a pretty high level, I would like to think. But I think comedy is like the other side. It's the other side of wisdom. And comedy is where people that's where the men have been talking. They get on stage, they pass it off as a joke, but it's meant a lot of the time. That's my take on it. I mean, you guys are the experts on comedy, so you got to keep me in line with that.
True. Sometimes I'll say something and I'll laugh it off like I'm joking, but deep down inside, I really do mean it, but I get to get it off my chest. I'm a comedian. I could get away with it.
That's an interesting perspective. I never thought about it like that, to be honest. But that's true.
Listen,
it is a release of truth, comedy.
It's the cheapest therapy there is. For the comedian.
Yeah. So when I told Dr. Dan about it, actually Greg hooked us up, and he was like, man, you need to get Dr. Dan, and I think Dr. Dan would be great. And the minute we met Dr. Dan, and I told you, you were like on board right away, man, because this is what you do, right?
Well, it is, but the thing is, I like to expand into different territories. I don't have a show on men and how to talk about that. And really, it's funny because, like, growing up, I could always walk the walk. I could fit in with the dudes without any problem at all. I was a huge sports guy. It was very, very easy for me, actually. But there were these other sides. There were these other sides of me where I was just like, and we will keep that off to the side. Where it's like, I'm feeling hurt by something, or I'm feeling sad. In fact, this is a big thing, and one of the reasons this show could be so important is men tend to shut it down, not only from each other, but from themselves. They don't even know it's there.
Mm-hmm. Good point. But I think part of that is, and this is the most important thing, is why is it embarrassing to talk about it or even admit it to yourself? Because that's, like you said, they block it out from themselves. I mean, it's really hard to lie to yourself. I mean, you really have to be really blocking something if you're blocking something from you. But it's the easiest path to take. But we have to get over that embarrassment and stigma. But first, we have to ask ourselves, why is it embarrassing? And I think that's something that we have to talk about. If we realize and understand why it's embarrassing, or why people think it's embarrassing, I should say, because it isn't.
Right.
But why people think it's embarrassing, then we can start to address it. So what are some of the reasons, like Edgar and Dan, I put it out to you. What do you think are some of the reasons that people are embarrassed or think are embarrassed to even talk about it or admit it?
I'll go first, Dan. Dr. Dan. Don't call him Dr. Dan again.
Don't leave him in it. No, I'm kidding.
The doctor right there, I think for me, coming from a Latino household, and I think I could speak for a lot of Latinos and Black people, that it's a stigma for if you go see a therapist, you're considered cuckoo. You're crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's embarrassing. Not everybody says, "Oh, I'm in therapy. I'm in couples therapy." Whatever that kind of therapy it is. So if it's, I was brought up to like, you don't need that. You don't need that. You're fine. You're fine. You don't need that. You don't need to go see a therapist. You know what I'm saying? And also, the way we're brought up as kids, like my father was tough on me. My father hit me, and if I cried, he would hit me again for crying. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, you gotta be man up. You gotta man up. You're not, you can't cry. You can't show, So I think all of that builds up as we grow. It's like Dr. Dan said, something happens, it could trigger, and then we could forget about it, and then we forget about it here, or we may not think about it, but deep down inside, that could be killing us, and we don't even know it, just adding to everything else,
And I do think that we all bring, whether people know it or not, we all bring our experiences from our home life to the next phase of life. You're going to interact with people that expects people to behave the way your family did. That's just that's the nature of psychology. You're going to expect that. And it's funny because I grew up in a family of therapists, but I remember going to a therapist when I was 19 years old and looking around like, I don't want anybody to see me going in. And I grew up in a family of therapists. So that tells you how far a bridge you have to get to be willing to go ahead and be like, let's do it. But one point that I'll make is that I think one of the antidotes to this is to get to a place where we do not give a damn what anybody else thinks anymore, because we're sacrificing ourselves to what we think people think. And they may not even think that.
Well, I agree with you in making that transition of saying, I don't care what other people think. But the first step to any problem is knowing you have a problem. Like, let me put this and let me put an analogy out there. I have really big eyes, right? It's really obvious. I have like really big, inhuman Rango eyes, if you've ever watched Rango. So that would be me walking around going, I don't have big eyes. What are you talking about? I don't have big eyes. And everybody's like, dude, you're Rango. You have big eyes. But I won't seek help for Rango's big eyes until I acknowledge to myself, man, those are some, I look like those grocery mirrors on the ceiling that you can see the entire room.
You're like those little goldfish whose eyes popped out.
Yeah, or I got walleye vision or something. So I looks like something's, but I have to acknowledge it and then get to the point where I don't care if people are seeing that I'm going to an eye fixing place. Again, an analogy. But why is it embarrassing for us to even admit to ourselves, to even get to the point to consider therapy and maybe be embarrassed about that? Where can we remove the embarrassment within us so that we can know that we need to take care of us and do something about it?
I got an idea about it, but Edgar, tell me what you think first.
I think I've been working with Dr. Dan on another level on his Crushing Doubt podcast, and he's helped me out a lot. And it's like you say, Eric, you gotta see it. If you don't see it, no matter how many people try to help you, it's never gonna work. Even for myself, to this day, I would be lying to you guys if I told you I said everything that I've thought about. I will be lying to you guys if I told you I'm being honest, bro, about everything, because I'm not. Because we all hesitant. Even today, even earlier today, something was bothering me. Something was in my head, and it kept on bothering me. Dr. Dan says, I've been working with you. I keep on thinking about, man, what is it? What is it? And it was bothering me. And at the same time, I found myself hesitant to share that with someone. I hesitated for a second. And I'm an advocate. This is why we all here right now, because I'm an advocate of doing this, because we can't think like that. We can't think about we got to think about ourselves. And I was hesitant, but then I went and I called a friend of mine and I spoke to him about it. And shortly after, it didn't take the problem away, because the problem is still there, but it makes you feel good that you shared it with someone, especially someone that is not going to judge you. You know what I'm saying? That's what I tell people. I tell people, man, I'm not asking you to talk to everyone. That's for everyone listening at home. I'm not asking you to talk to just find random people and be like, look, do you know what's bothering me? Not everyone deserves that. But, find someone who's not going to judge you. Find someone that you could trust, and you don't know, as a man, as a guy, right? When I could go up to Eric and I could be like, yo, oh, Eric, man, I'm gonna tell you something that's bothering me, and I tell him, and at the same time, he's seeing how honest I am and how I'm speaking from inside, and I'm building a bridge with Eric. Because now I just share something with you and it made me feel good. And that's going to give you the confidence and make you feel comfortable to share something with me. And before you know it, we're both helping out each other and we don't even know it. Just by talking.
I'm usually not listening half the time, Edgar. I'm sorry.
I forgot everything I just said.
Dude, I listen.
We got some work to do, guys.
I heard some good stuff. I'm just kidding.
This is great. We had a conversation. Eric didn't hear half of it. Edgar doesn't remember half of it.
And we're live. No, I'm just kidding.
Eric is not used to doing a podcast. Eric is just looking at himself like, oh, wow.
I'm not looking. I'm actually looking directly. It's like I'm looking at heaven and there's a round light and it's calling me. Mm-hmm. And that's all I'm looking at right now. I'm trying to avoid eye contact with everybody. But Edgar, I think you got to give yourself credit because you're saying, you're making the point that my point exactly is that you're acknowledging your inner feelings. You're acknowledging, and I think we should also talk about, like, we're talking about a whole spectrum of things. It's not necessarily has to be about one topic, but the most important thing is men don't talk, whether it's about minor feelings, major feelings, health and wellness, mental wellness, emotional well-being, or even just acknowledging that you're stressed and you're overwhelmed, even if it's just to acknowledge it for yourself. So, I think that we take it across the spectrum in men, and we take denial across the whole spectrum, and we'll deny having a backache and there's a bone sticking out of our back, but we'll deny that we have a backache. You know what I mean? So I think that, I think that we could really help a lot of guys kind of come out their shell and just get more open with themselves, and then that'll allow them to be more open with others.
Yeah, but combining what the two of you just said, really, once you open the door, once you lead first, and you walk out and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and say what I really think, there's going to be guys who will be like, well, that's weird, man. Keep that shit to yourself, But you have to be willing to risk that, because that's how you find out who everybody is. You put yourself out there, and that's how they find out who you are, and it gives them permission to maybe do something. That's how I made most of my friends. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and say it. When I talk to my daughters about this, and I talk about how to make friends, I say just, it's one thing to say just go be yourself, but who knows actually how to do that? Like, the how of being yourself means you actually have to go ahead and take a risk. And it's worth it. It is worth the risk every time, because if you find out somebody's not in it, then you found that out, and you can move on and find the people that are.
I tell people it's easy, like, the hard part is sharing your story or whatever's bothering you, and then it comes to that part, Dr. Dan, where you could be like, okay, you know what? I could confide in a certain person. That person doesn't give me the feedback that I or doesn't acknowledge it, or then you know who that person is. And it's not for you to say, no, why F that person? I don't want that person in my life no more. No, it's just that's not the person in your circle. And we should all have a circle. We should all have and back then I didn't. My ex-wife was the one that opened my eyes, and she was like, dude, you need to talk to other people, because she was my only person. She was the only one that would get to hear all my frustrations, all my anger, everything was taken out on her. And she was like, yo, you need to talk. And
that's why she became the ex-wife.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for that. Eric was there for that. But so I tell people, man, not everyone is gonna be that person. But if we don't look, how will we ever find that person? You know what I'm saying? If you don't step and cross, and that's what I'm hoping that the listeners at home, like if you don't take that leap and just try it, sometimes it's weird. Sometimes just saying it out loud.
I was just gonna say that sometimes, like, you really only need two people. You really only need one. The first one you need is yourself. Mm-hmm. If to even say it out loud to yourself, to acknowledge it to yourself, that's the beginning. And then, you don't need everybody to listen, because not everybody needs to listen. You just need that one person that is opening to listen, and hopefully without judgment. But once you're able to say it to yourself, and I think that's the most important thing you can take out of anything we say here tonight, is that, it all starts with the first step in yourself. Because you could fake it in front of people if you're not real with what's going on inside yourself.
Let me throw out one other thing that when I think about what's that stigma about, why is it hard to talk about these things, why is it embarrassing? There's a lot of aggression out there. I just want to bring that out. It's like there's this, the expression toxic masculinity. Well, that's real. That is there sometimes, where people are like, they're going to shame you for doing it. And I think we actually have to decide that we're going to channel our aggression towards good things. Like, in a way, this is an aggressive thing to do, in a good way, to come out and be like, no, I'm done with men not talking. It's a major, major problem. And so you can kind of decide to stand your ground, but you got to know what aggression's out there. And you got to also understand where it comes from, because it's not, sometimes we think that aggression's out there because what we said is not okay. It's hard to feel okay about it. Like, Eric, I was thinking about you with your eyes. You know what I was thinking when you said that?
Oh, you always think about my eyes, dude.
I do. I've been thinking about it ever since. I'm just going to be totally honest, and this could be totally weird, but this is what we're here for. I was thinking, you know what? My eyes are like tiny. What the? And I was thinking, that's funny. Like, it's funny that you were feeling one way about your eyes, and then I'm suddenly feeling one way about mine. And like, I think that is part of what happens. We get into like, and it's not even all true. Like, I'm not sure you do have big eyes. You just think you do. And I'm not sure I have tiny eyes. But like, what was that?
I mean, they're mid-size. They're not
really... Mine are mid-size?
Yeah, you're a mid-size. Mine are big, dude. Listen, it's fact.
That's a good point, Dr. Dan, because Eric said that, and then automatically you looked at your eye. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we got to realize, that we all have the same problem, guys. We all dealing with the same issues when it comes to relationships, with life, with work, and we could all be dealing with the same pain inside, not knowing that, if I let it out, and we're like, oh, wow, I'm not the only one that feels that way.
Right.
Let's talk about this. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I think the problem is. The problem is that we're too stubborn as men.
And it's easy to get jealous about women, right? Because they got the 5G network of social support. You know what I mean? Like, and we're still on an original bandwidth. You know what I mean? We're still like analog, and they got like 5G towers of love and support across the country. Mm-hmm. It's like we really need to catch up.
So when I did the podcast, I mean, like I said before in the first episode, is that I wanted it to be about guys, because I feel like women do have that support. Women do have that, the group, the girl that they call whenever, whatever you guys are both. You guys are both married.
They have a team.
Married. So everything that happens in your relationship, you best believe one of those best friends knows everything that happens.
Yep.
Because women are that's I mean, and not all of them, because there's some women that don't talk. There's some women that are just like us that hold everything back. But for the most part, women do talk, and that's why I wanted to make this about guys. Where you could come in and feel comfortable and just like say, you know what, let's let it out for a second.
Well, I think it starts as kids, because I look at emotional maturity with men and women. I look at it with the same ratio as an engineering school or an aeronautics school, where only 10% of the student body is female and 90% is male. And it's not because of capability. It's just what they were taught to, what was important growing up, and that little girls didn't get the same sense of importance in science and engineering because maybe they wanted to make them more feminine and make them more of a girl and have them play with dolls. And so you could use that analogy to men. There's maybe 90% of women are emotionally supportive and expressive, with 10%. And with men, it's usually just maybe 10% of men that are emotionally expressive, and the other 90% are holding something back. So there's never no absolutes in life, but I want men to know that they have options, that they don't have to hold it in, and it's something that can be laughed about.
Not only that, but I'm just going to add one other point. I am a big
Man,
believer.
please put that finger down after what you said.
Oh yeah, listen. Well, I need to make one more point, and the first thing I'm going to do is give you a colonoscopy. No, I'm kidding.
At least he can give you therapy during, like, are you thinking about your childhood?
See, now I'll never look at my finger the same way.
No, go ahead, Dan. Okay, put it up. One more time.
All right, listen to me. Bend over. No, I'm kidding.
No.
All right. So I think that one of the things that we need to think about is that if we get stuck on assumptions, we can get stuck in the same place. It could be an assumption that only 10% of men do talk about these things. If we start to change this, we could blow the doors off this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think our generation talks about things much more. The men talk about things much more than the previous generation. I would like to get to a place where 75% of men talk about a lot of things. And I don't even think it's that hard. I really don't. I would have to talk about how to do it, but this is a good start.
Why is it so comfortable for you to talk about sports, but you can't talk about what's going on and deep down inside, as a guy? Man could spend all day talking about sports except with me because, I have nothing to do with that. But
you know what's funny? It's really thinly veiled. Like, when we talk about sports, like, I'm from Cleveland. When I talk about, like, my sports teams and how much angst there was, like, I'm talking about my sadness and my rage. I'm just like, I'm going to talk about it sideways, though.
Mm-hmm. I feel, Dr. Dan, and I'm going to ask you this, right? I feel that part of the reason we don't talk is because we're afraid on how people are going to see us.
Oh, yeah.
After we say whatever it is that we need to let out. We're afraid of how people see us, how people are going to judge us, and it gets back to your point, Eric, when you said, as long as you know the truth, when you realize and you see it within yourself and then you admit it within yourself, then it'll be easier for you to say, okay, I don't care what those people say.
Well, I also want to, that's a good point, and I thank you for making it. The reason why men can talk about sports easily, it's because it's numbers, it makes sense, it's communal, and it's an emotion you can actually share in front of other men and not worry about the consequence because they're going to feel the same way. And that doesn't happen in other circumstances.
Oh my God! I almost brought the finger out again. Ooh.
You know what I mean? Like guys will be like, yeah, and there's a passion and emotion when men watch sports. It's like it sometimes I think it's because it's so much pent up emotion and feelings that they finally have this. That's why the wives become Sunday widows, because these men just need about 7 hours of unbridled emotional expression and a couple of cold ones. And just to have just good positive feelings and feel stuff go up, go down, because the first 6 days of the week they're holding it in. And sometimes I think it's just the only valve available to men.
Look, I mean, even the likelihood that you're going to give your friend like a big hug, it's more likely on a touchdown than anything else.
Yes.
Like, it's just like...
Yeah, that is true. That is hilarious.
And we don't hug and go, oh, touchdown. I feel really sensitive today. Well, what?
Touchdown. Hey. This was the greatest brunch.
What? But you know what? We should be able to say, yo, touchdown. Did you try the eggs? We should be able to combine the two. That, just take that passion and turn it into our own feelings. We can do it, guys.
Let me give you one sense though of why we don't. Just so far. So when we were kicking around ideas for like what to do on this, remember we talked about the idea of old news?
Yes.
And news, whether it's old or not. I thought it would be funny to talk old news because, like, news gets stale fast. But, like, returning to old news, you can get a lot out of that and figure out what's going on. And the thing that I find in the news is, like, there is so much judgment. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. Like, any news item comes out, every single person has an opinion. I think this, I think that. Very few people are thinking, who is the person in that news story, actually?
Mm-hmm.
It's also because people have now vehicles to communicate. The one thing about social media, it gives everybody a voice. The only negative thing about it is that it makes thinks their voice is the most important voice. I'm not saying not every voice is important, but too many people feel like their voice is the most important and should matter above the rest. And then when you disagree with them, that's when it becomes adversarial. I miss the good old days when you could just disagree with people, you know, and agree to disagree. I think I think they threw those words out of the dictionary this past generation because people don't agree to disagree anymore.
Wait a minute. I don't totally disagree with you there, but at the same this is funny. But I didn't agree to disagree. I'm sorry. But when was that time? Like, because I think sometimes we get an idea of the nostalgia of something from the past and we think it was better then. And maybe in some ways it was. And I think there are things that were better and we could get back to. But like, I don't know. Did people?
We actually might have been more repressed back then. I mean, I like we communicate more now, and I guess maybe you always look at the past with rose-colored glasses because you're not in the moment. But you have to acknowledge, and you made the statement that people are talking more now. You know, people are expressing, you know, about their mental wellness and about their well-being, and even with gender and sexuality, people are now opening up and not feeling like they have to hide anymore. So it's opening up on a lot of levels, but there's still this overwhelming number of men that still keep it bottled up, which is, I find it interesting because we see all these other groups kind of finally just coming out. And yes, there's been some men that have admitted to, you know, some actors here and there, a couple of athletes, but I'm talking about the everyday guy. How do we get the everyday guy to feel as comfortable as Kevin Love from the Cavaliers? You know, it might be a little easier to express that you're going through this when you have a $150 million contract and none of your words can hurt you or hurt your money.
You know what, though? I think that one of the reasons I loved what Kevin Love did is
And I love what he did, yes.
And he walked the walk. You know, that's something we talk about, have talked about behind the scenes and are going to talk about on this show, is walking the walk. And you got to actually do it. So it was making me think about, we had plans to talk about something that we have not told most people. I have mine. I know what I want to talk about. But Edgar, do you have something?
Before we get into that real quick, I want to share something with you guys. During my last breakup, because I've had many, right? Ask Eric.
You male whore.
I went through. I've learned from every relationship that I've been in. If you don't learn, if you don't take something from everyone, you're doing nothing. You're just repeating life all over again. And when I had my last breakup, I told myself that I was not gonna badmouth her. I was not gonna say nothing negative about her. At the end of the day, what people need to know is that, you know what, we couldn't be together, and that's not nobody's business what happened, you know. But I kept it to myself, you know. I kept it to myself. I didn't do no big deal about it and nothing. And it's crazy because I just thought about this now. Eric found out about it through my sister. You know, he found out that I was I was going through a breakup, and he called me. He called me mad. You remember this, Eric? He called me
I
mad.
do.
Eric,
Yes.
I seen Eric get mad over silly stuff, you know. We bother him, we'll text him too much, call him, he'll get mad. But I've never seen Eric get mad like he got mad that day because I did not call him to let him know what I was going through. And then that made me realize how good of a friend Eric is, because that's how we should all be. You know, if you got somebody that you consider your best friend, if you got somebody that's in your circle, and you know, sometimes people are, oh, you don't call nobody. Well, the phone works both ways, dude. You know what I'm saying? If you don't call me, let me call you.
I was madder at you because I had spoken to you a couple of days before then, and you just had a regular conversation with me acting like everything was cool. That's what pissed me off. It's not like we didn't talk for a while. We were talking. You were just omitting.
It's a perfect example on how we hide our emotions, how we hide everything, and we'll just brush it all off. Especially for us, it's good for us because we're comics. We could do that in a heartbeat. You know, comedians could hide all their emotions, but you know, so when I got that phone call from Eric, it opened my eyes. I'm like, man, you know what? This dude really cares to the point that now if I'm going through something drastic like that, I know I could call Eric and I could tell him, you know, because if he finds out on his own, he's gonna get mad about it. You know what I'm saying?
You know what hurt me the most, by the way, Edgar? Just real quick, you know what hurt me the most? Why you didn't call me quickly? Because I could have called her even quicker. I had to wait until I found out you broke up to then call her, and I lost valuable weeks. So, oh my God.
So and then another thing, real quick, that I thought about when you guys are talking. For me personally, for me, and I've noticed this lately, and I talked to you about it, Dr. Dan. I feel like I'm now at this moment in time, I'm so connected with my emotions. You know, um, we're macho, we're men, we're supposed to be tough. We can't let nobody see our weakness. And for many years, I hid my emotions. Like if I talk, you see my eyes get watery. When I talk something that's coming from inside, I show my emotions. And for years, I try to hide that, embarrassed on somebody will see me like, "Well, you such a punk, yo, you gonna cry or some bullshit." And now, like I feel like that was one of the main problems for guys to open up. So now I'm connected with my emotions, but I've heard girls complain about, oh, you can't, why you cry so much? Why you so, you know, like, so now I'm like thinking, I'm like, you know what? I am gonna let it out. I am gonna talk about it. As a comedian, my new me, it's gonna get on stage and it's gonna talk about all my problems. I'm not gonna be afraid to tell someone what I felt inside, and that goes into the whole segment and the point of this podcast, which is walking the walk, which is what we decided to call this segment, walking the walk, practicing what we preach. I'm not gonna come on this show and tell people, yo, bro, vent out, find someone to talk to. You see how good it feels. You feel good about it. If we're not gonna practice it ourselves, and we all decided that we were gonna share something, and I think I'm going first, right? That's the plan, Dr. Dan.
I think that's the plan. But listen,
Sounds like a plan.
You can tell us. You can talk to us.
So it's crazy that the minute we came up with this segment, Dr. Dan, you were like, boom, I got something to say right away. I don't know how it worked for you, Eric, but for me, it made me look into myself. It made me look like, okay, like what's deep down inside? Because this segment is about sharing something that's either bothering us now, has bothered us in the past, or, something in our mind. That's what this whole segment is about. So I started looking within myself. I'm like, man, what's really bothering me? What hurt me to the point that I am this person today, and I haven't found that trigger yet. And I was thinking, I said, man, what am I going to share with the guys? What am I going to share with the guys? And one of yesterday it hit me. Yesterday I had a bad day. I had one of those days that I get up in the morning and I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to talk to nobody. I feel down. And I've been trying to think about our sessions, Dr. Dan, and like trying to pin it, but it's just like overwhelming, and sometimes it drains me. And remember that text I sent you about my grandmother and that whole intuition of how I felt something bad all day, and then then at night I get a phone call. My grandmother was rushed to the hospital. Yep. So all day something was bothering me inside, Eric, and then I got that phone call. So yesterday was that day, and then I'm thinking about what to share with you guys, and then it hit me. I would say yesterday was the 13th. Yesterday was the day my mom passed, a year and 3 months ago. So for this walking the walk, I want to talk about that. If I get emotional, I don't care, because, I felt like you guys know about it, but it's still hurting me inside. Yeah. It's hurting me. I'm mad. I'm really mad that as hard as she fought her whole life, she died to COVID, and I couldn't be there. I couldn't be there next to her. I couldn't see her. And it messed me up. So I wanted to talk about her. I wanted to talk about, about that, Dr. Dan, mostly with you, because I have a rage inside. And there's days that I think about her and I'll be like, man, and it drives me crazy. I think about how she was the best as a Latina mom. She was the greatest woman I know. But at the end of the day, she never agreed with me doing comedy,
Right.
And I found this to be a trigger, an emotional trigger. She loved me. She was the best mom ever. But she never quite saw comedy. So when my mom passed, I had that accident, so I was already out of the game. So when comedy got taken away from me, comedy was my therapy. Every night I went on stage and I vented out, and no one even knew it. It's like you say, I said things that are like in my head, but for the amount of time that I was on stage, it was about that. It was about making those people laugh, So when mom passed, it messed me up, because she always called me every day, like, when you're gonna get a real job, you need benefits, you need Social Security, you need this, you need that. I would call her and be like, Mom, what's up, Mom? How you doing? She goes, yo, I'm good. She goes, what are you? I said, I just got home. I leave again tomorrow. She's like, oh my God, you're gonna die from all that traveling you do. And it used to get me mad, right? It used to get me mad because I'd be like, man, why can't she see it? Why can't she see that I'm living a dream? I'm living, I'm loving what I'm doing. And she couldn't see it. And thinking about it, I can't judge her because she was old school. She was an old school Latina woman, and in my household, the arts were an influence. Like for those Latinos, they don't see the arts as a way of living. So for her wanting me to have a job, it was like, okay, you know what? This is that's the way she sees it. So it didn't really. I didn't really. It came to a point that it used to bother me, and then I told myself, as long as I believe in myself, that's all that matters. And then not till I told myself that was that I was able to let that go. So whenever she said those comments, I would just brush them off and then keep on going.
Right.
But then what I'm dealing with now, and this is what I'm realizing, that when she passed, then all those doubts come into my head. For many years, she didn't see my comedy career, and now she's not here, and now I'm doubting myself. Now I'm like, damn, is this really what I need to do? You know what I'm saying? Should I just go get a job and get an 8 to 5 and forget about it, and then. So I'm dealing with those doubts. I'm missing the shit out of her. I'm missing the phone calls and everything else because it's the hardest thing I've gotten to go. Had to go through was losing a parent. That was the first lady in my life, the one that took care of me, believed in, did everything for me. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but that's basically what I wanted to vent out today, Dr. Dan and Eric. Like I'm hurting inside. As much as I brush it off and I pretend like it's not there, it hurts. But at least I could see the trigger. I know how to deal with it. I told myself and put it to the side. But this is what this is about. Me as a man being here, because these tears are coming out my face doesn't change my manhood, doesn't make me any less of a man. But I feel stronger sharing this with you guys. Yeah, because this is what I've been dealing with for the past year and 3 months.
I think it's the opposite. I think that it takes strength to do that. I know there are some people who say that kind of thing, but it really is true. And it also, I think, is so important that you share it with people you trust. I'm honored that you have come to trust me.
Thank you.
In this short
and
amount
you
of time
and everybody else listening, and it's crazy, but
listen, Edgar, this is good. There was a time maybe 10 years ago you wouldn't have even acknowledged you were feeling this. So here you are, even though no one looks for an 8 to 5, by the way, it's a 9 to 5. I don't know what, I don't know why you felt so bad about yourself. You gave yourself an extra work hour. It's like
people don't get paid for lunch, Eric.
No, listen, guys. He was like, my mom was disappointed about my comedy career, so now I got to work an extra hour every day
to make up for disappointment. No, but listen. This is what this is about. This is what it's about: talking to people,
and not only that, like what you just said. You saw how back Dr. Dan gave me the good compliment, and then you made it fun of it, with the whole 8 to 5. But then we laughed. So
yeah,
I had that moment of venting out, but then at the same time we laugh, and that's the reward that comes.
They're both forms of empathy, Like in my therapy, I use humor all the time because it's too much to take otherwise. Who wants all that heaviness? You got to be able to joke about it.
Yeah. I think comedians, whenever we're in a nervous situation, our first instinct is to try to be funny, to kind of break the ice and ease the tension. But, I used to feel bad about that because I didn't realize how actually beneficial it was. I thought maybe I was being too flippant about things, but sometimes you need to inject a little humor. No 8 to 5s, Edgar. No 8 to 5s.
No.
Actually, I want to add something, and that is that you're trying to resolve a lot of stuff, Edgar, right there. And it's really important that we recognize you can feel two things at once. You could be missing the hell out of your mom, and also be so sad that she died before she could finally see, you know what, that was a good choice. There's got to be some part of you that wants that.
That it was crazy because when I had the accident before 2020 got here, I'm pretty sure we all felt the same way where we're like, yo, 2020 is gonna be the year. Every year we always tell ourselves that this is gonna be the year. I had everything lined up. April 17th, 2020, I was set to record my special in Puerto Rico, in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And I was doing it in Puerto Rico for a purpose, even though everybody told me not to do it. They were like, do it in New York. You're from New York, dude. Why would you go to Puerto Rico? Because I wanted to challenge myself. And I feel like the people of Puerto Rico would have, my style, they would have accepted. And not only that, the only real reason I wanted to do it there was because my parents were there. So for me, it would have been to have mom and dad and grandma and grandpa, even though grandma and grandpa wouldn't understand nothing I said, but just to have them there would have meant everything. Maybe then she could have been like, boom, even though I still feel like she was so stubborn and hard-headed at times that I would still feel like she would find something to say about it. But my father got it. My father was the same way as her. And my father came around. I performed for him one time and then boom, he started seeing it. Which just makes you feel good. When we're doing something in life, we want support, especially from our family, from my friends. That, look, I just shared a moment. Look what I just did. I cried in front of both of you guys, and whoever else is listening to, and I feel good. And I could laugh about it. And like I said, it didn't take nothing away from me. But the fact that you guys know this about me now, maybe Eric will call me in a couple of days. Bro, how you doing, bro? You know what I'm saying? And then we could talk about it. And then that's what this whole show is about. Connecting and listening to each other so we could be better men.
Yeah. And like Edgar, you and I have gotten a lot closer in this short time that we've known each other. And Edgar, Eric, I feel like we're gonna get closer. I know it. As soon as I stop trying to give you colonoscopies, then.
Well, listen, I think it's actually better because I can get in touch with my feelings while you get in touch with my colon. So it really is.
I do not like this.
I don't know where I belong in this equation.
I just
want Greg to block me out of this one.
I just want to know where the other hand is going. Well, Edgar, not for nothing, your mom's was so old school. Even if you had an HBO special and you came off the stage and they wrote you $1 million check, she would be like, that's nice. It's still no benefits.
Let me give you the perfect example, Dr. Dan. And you're not gonna have you're not gonna have any idea what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I did Sábado Gigante, which to Latinos was like everything on a Saturday night. Don Francisco did this every Saturday night, 5 hours. It was like on for like 50 years. This dude had on.
It was like a television carnival variety show that every Spanish-speaking country tuned into every Saturday. Sábado Gigante, big, gigantic Saturday.
So I did Sábado Gigante, and I thought that was gonna be the one. I said, oh, this is it. She's going to see me in Sábado Gigante, and she's going to be like, yeah. And what happens, man? They booed the shit out of me, man. This little midget threw me off the stage. It was so embarrassing, man. I felt like I was the first person to call me, Eric, was Angelo. Angelo, man, he rest in peace, was the first one to call me. He said, those people don't know fucking comedy. And I was so embarrassed because the whole world got to see this live, Dr. Dan. It was live. And you know what my mother did? She hated Don Francisco from that moment on, but she still didn't acknowledge it.
Actually, it's really important that you said that because I think one of the ways that people actually show their care for each other is they get mad when you've been hurt. They get mad about it. Like Eric calling you up and being like, how'd you not tell me? Or your mom being like, that's it. She might have represented, I don't want you doing that. But the minute somebody else crossed your path in that way, she was like, no.
And by the way, for you don't realize how serious it is, Dr. Dan, for anybody that's Latino to turn their back on Don Francisco. Okay? That's like an Italian turning their back on Don Corleone. All right? You don't do it. You are blacklisted in every Spanish-speaking country in the world. You are a scarlet letter. You are against the Don. You can't do it.
Yeah. But now that when we were talking about this and we were like, yo, you know what, guys, if we go over, if we talk so much, if we're running out of time, then we could split the time and then save our stories for the next show. So I feel like we only got like 10 minutes left, and Dr. Dan was so eager to share his story with us. So Eric, we're gonna save you for next week, and then we'll just listen to Dr. Dan and then see what he has to say and how we could help the doctor.
There's some part of Eric that was totally relieved. He was like, "Yes, I'm off for another week."
It's like,
Eric was like,
you know, this is so close to my bed. I feel so bad because I don't want to say what time it is, but I go to bed a lot earlier than I used to. So by 9:30, I'm already getting crust in the eyes, and I know that's horrible for a comedian. So
you have big eyes.
I do. I'm telling you,
lots of crust.
I have a stuffed crust pizza in my left eye right now. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
All right,
go ahead, Dr. Dan. Do your walk in the walk.
All right, I'll go. But before I do this, one thing I want to say is, and I think it might be one of the ways that I'll be a good addition to this show is, I actually have done this thousands of times about thousands of things. But I'm going to pick something that I really don't talk to most people about. I'm going to like deeply walk the walk.
Mm-hmm.
So, a little caveat here, and that is that it's to me, every time I have told this to anybody, and I've told a couple people about it, I know that they might think it's no big deal. But to me, it was a huge, huge deal. Okay? So I'm going to set the stage.
Go ahead.
I had my first real girlfriend when I was like 45. No, I'm kidding. When I
tomorrow.
I had my first real girlfriend tomorrow, even though I'm married. So I was 13. And I really genuinely loved this girl. But I was a 13-year-old boy. And, like, there's a way in which I have always been... By the way, we're going to see if you guys can ever get me to cry. And it's not because I don't want to. I just never cry.
Yeah, I'm mad as shit that you didn't cry. Eric held it on. I saw Eric holding it when I was crying, but Eric was...
I teared up. I tear up all the time, but, like...
I need myself in the balls a couple of times so I could feel something more painful than your story.
So here's the thing. I was so excited about this girl. And I was only 13 years old, and essentially what happened is we dated for 6 months, which as a 13-year-old, that's a serious relationship there.
That's like 7 in dog years.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And but she eventually broke up with me for various reasons. I don't know what. I'm still friends with her, actually, so I could ask her. I don't know that she'd know. But the thing that was hard for me...
We have a surprise. We have her on the show. Imagine your pup.
Oh, my God. Mika Millstone's here? I can't believe it.
You were horrible in the playground.
Yeah. I wasn't horrible in the sack. We never found that out.
Ooh.
So
we never found that out.
The thing is, I always felt that no one would understand this because there was... Listen, when I was born, I talk about this a lot. My father died when I was 6 weeks old. I came into a world of trauma. My mom was, she did a really great job, but I'm sure she was depressed and having a really hard time. My brother, who was 3 at the time, was, I'm sure, a mess. My dad now, who adopted us later, it took a long time for him to become the dad. And here's the thing. I felt like I was like a 40-year-old, just all the time. I'd walk around, and I'd be on the playground, and people would be talking sports, and I talk sports, and I like talking sports. But I felt like I was like 40. I was like, I cannot wait for people to be where I'm at. I just felt like I was always in a different place. And never more so than with this girl breaking up with me. Speaking of crying, that was probably the last time I really, really cried a lot. And it was maybe the only time I've truly been heartbroken. Because I thought I was going to marry her. She's 13 years old, but I was like... I'm the kind of guy who is loyal, knows what I want. I would have married her. I know I would have.
Do you remember what happened? Why you guys broke up?
Well, I have my version of it. This is funny. Like, there's some comedy in this. So,
well, I was going to say, if you were in Arkansas, you probably would have gotten married at 13.
That's right.
So
that's right.
And then so you were living in the wrong place.
So, I got married at 17. That's a whole story right there. But go ahead.
It wasn't that far away. But what happened is, I went away to overnight camp, and I grew like 5 inches while I was there. So I came back and I was all like gangly, and I just looked totally different. And I think she was like, well, I don't want that. And meanwhile, she was not a 40-year-old. Only I was, So it was this weird thing where it was like, I knew no one would ever understand. Right now, as I'm telling you, I'm like, I don't know if they'll understand, but it just feels good to be like, you know what? I'm going to stand in my own truth and be like, yeah, I know we were 13, but I knew who I was even then. And I would have married her.
How long was the gap between this girlfriend and your next one?
It was long because I was so hurt that in fact, here's another funny story.
He said, I was 14 and a half.
It took a long time. It was 3 days later. No, I did not really, really seriously date any other person after that until my wife.
What?
Yep. I dated other people.
See, that was the punchline I was waiting for. Because it's crazy because you said, and I was going to bring this up. I was waiting for you to finish to bring it up because you said that's the only time you remember ever being heartbroken.
Ever.
Wow.
So I'm wondering if it was because you felt like a 40-year-old and you saw life differently and you learned from that experience. You know, you told yourself you didn't like how it felt. This is not going to happen no more at the age of 13. Because from not dating somebody from 13, and when did you get married?
Well, I met my wife when I was 27. So, I mean, I over doubled my life from that point forward. Wow. I did date other people, but like, I'm just the kind of guy who would be serious about anything. Actually, there was one girl in between who I was really serious about, and this is also a funny story. This is my good friend Jen, and I was really good at picking good, loyal people, especially after that. And Jen was just really, really loyal. There was only one problem. She's a lesbian. So I had no idea. I'm 17. I'm like 17 years old when I met Jen. 16 actually. And I'm just thinking like, she's safe. She's good. I mean, I found her attractive also, but like, and we actually did end up dating. So I don't know. Maybe she's bisexual. I don't know, but I would like to think so, given that.
Well, and we have Jen.
Oh my God, you have them all.
We're playing This Is Dr. Dan's Life all of a sudden. All these bitter 13-year-old girls are coming out.
That's funny.
This is how Jen looks now.
The reason I'm telling you this though is the closest people in my life don't really even know this, because even when I told them, they kind of didn't take it seriously. Mm-hmm. I could tell. They'd kind of look at me and be like, "You didn't know that." And I'm like, I'm telling you, I knew.
I mean, that is hard to. I mean, it's very rare when you hear someone saying at 13 that you would have been willing to marry that person. I got friends that are in their 40s, been living with their partners for 20 years, don't feel that way. So that's pretty amazing.
And I don't know how it would have worked out, and I wouldn't have gotten married.
I think by 15 you would have been divorced. By 15 it would have been over. By 17, you would have been already on your second marriage. By 19, you probably would have had like 4 kids living in Nebraska.
Just to be clear, I wasn't planning to marry her then. But you know what I love about this moment?
I'm glad you clarified that, because I'm thinking, geez, dude, can't you at least wait till you're 14?
Yeah. I listen, I don't know. I'm a very committed person, but maybe too committed. I don't know. But what feels good about this is I'm totally interested in what you guys think. But I'm not actually worried about it. I actually know who I am. And I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm interested, but I know that I'm right.
I'm interested in knowing why you felt like you were 40 at the age of 13. You know,
I'll tell you why.
He had a mortgage.
Yeah. I had an 8 to 5 job, giving colonoscopies.
Doing colonoscopies on the side.
I had one job, 8 to 5. I was
a 13-year-old giving colonoscopies.
And he was really bad. He was doing it up the urethra. He was horrible.
It was. Listen, if having a psychologist give you colonoscopy is bad enough, but a 13-year-old one,
listen. If you're gonna touch my colon, like I said, I'm okay with getting in touch with my feelings. I'll be like, oh, let me tell you about my mom.
I'll tell you though, this is a theme that I think is going to come up in this show a lot. When you've been through a trauma, you actually do gain wisdom.
Oh yeah.
And I had just been through a lot of trauma for a long time, so I was already there.
it shows me that like I'm completely opposite from you. So you had this experience at the age of 13, and then you told yourself never again, and then you really till you got married, you know. I, on the other hand, was the opposite. I broke up with one and started with the other. And I think the reason you were able to do this was because you took that time in between. I think that's a mistake that we do a lot when we go from one relationship to the other. If you're not ready to go into that other relationship, whatever problems you have with this one, you're gonna bring right into this one. If you don't take time for yourself, so for you, you took that time.
Yeah, I mean,
I took a lot of
waited.
time.
I waited for her.
I hope you had sex between.
I waited for her for 3 years.
Yeah,
I actually did.
Her?
I waited for her for 3 years to see if she would like figure it out and come back.
Yo, Dr. Dan he disappeared like Jesus from 13 to 30. You know what I'm saying? He went off the dating planet and came back. Oh.
Yep.
That is hilarious, man.
I'm just saying the time frame's the same. 13 to 30, all of a sudden,
And I'm Jewish.
Back.
I'm Jewish too. I got the beard. I gotta grow my hair out longer.
3 for 3. All he needs is the cut.
Yep.
There you go. But it's interesting, man. We're actually running out of time, man. We could talk about this next time some more. Now that we know about it and we'll think about it, Eric. You know, you listen? Did you listen?
What? I'm sorry.
You heard half of it.
And we could definitely talk about it. And thank you for sharing that, Dr. Dan. That's very interesting, man. I mean, I could understand why a lot of people would be like, you know.
Yeah. Right.
Thank you for sharing that. That was awesome.
And I hope she calls in when she hears this, and somehow we can get her on the line. That would be fantastic.
Oh my God!
You know what's funny? I've told her all this.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Fantastic. I was going to ask her, does she know about this?
I've told Jen about it. I told my wife about it. Everybody knows about it.
Everybody.
They
knows
do.
Now
you guys do. Now everybody knows.
Now everybody's going to know about it.
Everybody's going to know about it. But listen, thank you guys. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for doing this with me. As I said in the beginning, to everyone at home listening, man, I hope that you listened to us. I hope that you felt what we said. I hope that you connected with us. And I hope that you pick one person, just one person, to tell them something that's bothering you and just see how that feels. And if it makes you feel good, then you could definitely hit us up when we get that website and everything running for the show. But Eric, tell people where they can find you, your social media, Instagram.
Where can you find me, Edgar? I'll tell you where you can find me, Edgar. You can find me in your heart.
Nice. The funny thing is, he actually means that.
I do.
He just can't tell you.
No.
I do. I was so mad that I'm finding out from his sister, bro. You don't find out stuff about your boy from his sister, and I gotta pretend I knew. Oh yeah, we talked.
Yeah. But that was that.
Oh, actually, no. The sister didn't tell me directly. She told my wife, and then my wife told me. That's how it happened.
That's even worse.
Yeah, it's even worse.
How women talk. You see how women talk? Did you know that Edgar was in another?
They're sharing secondhand information. I'm left out firsthand. That's cold, son.
And that's exactly what.
That's why we need to talk.
Tell you when they find out something about you and you didn't tell them, man. That's it. Everybody wants to hear.
Talk, baby.
To talk, man. So. Thank you all. Any last words, Dr. Dan?
No, I'm just glad we're doing this. You know, I think to have things change, we need to work on it, and we need to show people it can change.
I totally agree. It can. Couldn't have said it better, Dr. Dan. I could, but not as eloquently.
Stay tuned for the next episode, man. I'm having a lot of fun. I know we're gonna have a lot of fun, and we're gonna change a few lives, and that's the whole purpose and meaning of this. So thank you, brothers
in arms.
Peace. Till next week, y'all.